Okay, so this is the last of the Unit 4 revision topics. We're going to be looking at the maintenance of mental health and the trans-theoretical model of mental health. So, when we're trying to maintain our mental health, we need to remember first and foremost resilience. And resilience is your ability to cope with challenges, your ability to bounce back and restore normal functioning. And this is very important to maintaining good mental health. And we need to remember that when we are building resilience, we are trying to ensure that we have the protective factors available to us to bounce back from adversity. So think about COVID and lockdown, right? Having good resilience would mean that you would be able to get through lockdown with very little, stress and anxiety. So some of the factors that can actually lead to a good sense of mental health from the biological perspective is an adequate diet. So if you're simply eating well and you're using a variety of foods, you're drinking water, you're eating breakfast, having vitamins and minerals, right? You're essentially getting your body ready for, feeling good physically. Likewise, with adequate sleep, right? If you're waking up refreshed and ready for the day, you're more likely to look at the day more positively. The number of hours that you sleep each night are going to make it easier for you as well. So if you're sleeping the right amount of hours, you're going to be less grumpy in the morning, right? And because sleep deprivation can impair your effective behavioral and cognitive functioning, which we learned about in the sleep topic. And this can all have an impact on mental health. So we need to make sure that we're not only eating right, but we're also sleeping the right amount of hours. The psychological factors, we need to employ cognitive behavioral strategies. So we need to correct our faulty ways of thinking. We need to think about things more positively. So instead of thinking of COVID lockdown as the worst thing ever and, I'm never going to see my friends again, change it up and go, well, okay, yes, I'm in lockdown, but I can at least, complete work in my own time. I can do additional, artwork that I've always wanted to do. Right, so you're changing your behaviors that may be negative into more positive ones. Same sort of thing, if you're receiving a bad mark on a SAC, instead of thinking that you're dumb and not putting the effort into the subject, you acknowledge that the SAC was hard, that lockdown was hard, and you'll work harder in the future. Some of the social factors in maintaining your mental health might be support from family and friends and the community, and people with poor mental health tend to have a poor social network and they don't want to socialize with others. But if you actually interact with others and have people to talk to, it's going to lessen the potential problems that you have. Right? It can also help people to feel more connected, and it can be a distraction from your potential problems. Now, the last component of the study design is what's known as the Transtheoretical model of behavior change. And this is how you might actually change the way you behave that could be poor for your mental health and physical health as well. So I'm going to go with smoking because that's the easiest example. So for the contemplation stage, this is where you're not ready to change your behavior, right? You don't think that what you're doing is wrong, that you don't have any consideration of what you're going to do for the next 6 months. You want to continue smoking for the next, for the rest of your life. You do not care. That's all you're concerned about in regards to smoking is, yep, it's fine, right? Why should it bother anybody else? I'm just going to do it. In the contemplation stage, you start thinking, well, okay, maybe smoking's bad for me. I'm starting to get this cough. I'm out of breath a lot of the time. So you start thinking about possibly changing your behavior in the near future, usually within the next 6 months. But you're not actually making any changes. You're just thinking about quitting smoking. In the preparation stage, you're actually mentally preparing for the behavior change, and you actually put some sort of plan together. So you might actually think about buying the Nicorette patches and working out which ones are best for you. You might be buying the gum. You might research the best ways to stop smoking, right? So you're actually preparing for it, and you have a plan to change the problem behavior, so to quit smoking within the next 30 days. In stage 4, it's the action stage. And in the action stage, you're actually doing something about your problem behavior, right? And other people are noticing that you've stopped that behavior, so you've stopped smoking, and it takes a lot of time and energy because, you'll have stages where you really want to have that cigarette, or you really want to get back into that behavior. So it might have a relapse where you have to go back to the start, right? And you start smoking again, right? And if that happens, then it happens. If you happen to have like one little instance where you take a puff of cigarette or something like that, that's just a lapse. That just means that you still continue with the action stage, but you just accidentally, or you just needed that one cigarette. However, if you go into full-blown smoking for the next 4.5 months, you've gone into relapse. The last stage is the maintenance stage, and this is after the action stage where you have sustained the behavior or changed behavior for 6 months. So you haven't actually smoked a cigarette for 6 months and you haven't relapsed. And the focus here is on avoiding going into that relapse of taking up that cigarette again, right? So the issue with the maintenance stage is that no one's actually reinforcing your behavior anymore. They no longer care, right? You've done it. It's old news. You don't need to worry about it. So they're no longer saying, oh, you're really cool now that you're not smoking, right? So it's really hard to actually maintain it. But once you get up to that stage, it is a lot easier afterwards. So that was the end of Unit 4. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.